Hey Ringside Crew. Welcome to the internationally known Dudes at Ringside Podcast. And now here's your host, Joe Panther III.
Hello there, wrestling fans. To another episode of the internationally known Dudes at Ringside Podcast. I am Joe Panther III, and Ringside Crew, you're in for a treat. I have a gentleman that is blazing a trail for himself on the independent wrestling scene. Introduce yourself to my internationally known audience.
Thank you for having me there. For those who do not know who I am, tuning to this episode is going to give you some insight. I go by the gashed Darren Crowe, sadist professional wrestler hailing from the state of New York, fourth member of the wrestling stable Edge of Hope. When you see me in the ring, you see a literal psychopath who finds beauty in violence. Outside of that, I'm a founder of the video editing gimmick called The Gashed Media. Background in Titantron entrances, vignettes, promo packages, highlights, etc., etc.
Awesome. Dude, that's amazing. So, with it being Tri-State Wrestling Month, like this is because I'm from PA. If you know, in Port Jervis, New York, there's a rock at the end of the cemetery. You should definitely go honor it because you're from the New York area. You definitely go check it out. It honors New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and it's right by the river over there in Port Jervis. So
absolutely.
I always think it's like an honor rock because that's the honor, the rock, the mascot for this Tri-State Wrestling Month. I'm like, hey, why not? For you, where did your wrestling DNA start? Where did you get this love of wrestling?
It kind of was always there. I had a family that two sides of my family that grew up on pure wrestling. My late uncle, Lawrence, he met all the legends just by going to the shows, going to the bars to see them and everything. I always get everything signed, pictures and whatnot. He used to have VHS tapes of like old shows, and I'd watch it back with him even before like when he had the DVDs of like the greatest championship moments and whatnot. The other side of my family, I have cousins who are so huge on wrestling. We did borderline backyard wrestling. We were like 6-8 years old at the time, so it was just all in good fun trying to imitate our favorites and whatnot. And however, my wrestling love kind of fell off in middle school because you grow up in school and there's kids who are like anti-wrestling. They hate it or they find it fake and they go and harp at you about it and it kind of turns you away from it, but then it always comes back. Wrestling is just something that you can't truly get away from.
I'm an 80s baby and I'm like 41, so like for me wrestling was always like a friend that never really left for me. They grew into the independent wrestling scene for me. Like it was the WWFs and the WCWs. And then that friend slowly started changing to going, these smaller things look cool too. You should go to them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So out of all the wrestling you watched, which wrestling was more like seen on the TVs in your house?
Most definitely like WWF, WWE. The only thing we had through cable was watching WWE depending on which channel it was on. And I was pretty ignorant to the other wrestling such as like New Japan, All Japan, ROH, all the sorts. I was always kind of a WWE fan through and through, just because that was how my family got me into wrestling. So that was just the rock I stuck to.
Awesome. So how did you, where did you find the school you trained at? Who trained you?
So I started out, it wasn't actually a school. I had been trying to get myself trained since the age of 16 and circumstances didn't go my way. Personal life also took hold. When I finally started getting trained, I was 23 and I was doing a favor going to this wrestling company to be an extra, to do ring crew and stuff, and eventually would start getting me my first matches. this is where I would meet my first out of 3 trainers, Robbie Vegas, who I would train with him before we started putting a school together. The school was kind of a joint connection. Whereas I started taking training under the invincible Vince Valor, who is kind of a local commodity here, currently ESW champion, our local company. He started paying a visit to the warehouse that I started working around in. We trained there. We trained with Robbie on the side. Eventually, they got a school at this mall that we went to. And then eventually we got a new warehouse for it. So we now have it, the Buffalo Wrestling Academy, which is Vince Valor and Rockstar Robbie Vegas. We also had, for me, a third trainer on the side, late none-of-a-kind Anthony Gaines, who was a huge help in keeping me the way with my character, with the psychology on what goes where, how to present oneself and whatnot, you know. It was just kind of all a joint effort, kind of dominoes putting together.
Awesome. So when it comes to your character, where does he come from? Like for you, like where does it, what TV shows, what movies, like where did you come up with this? Where does it all come from?
I had no idea at first, but a lot of it comes from my love of horror movies and a lot of Japanese Yakuza flicks. Stemming from my all-time favorite, 1978's John Carpenter's Halloween, to Ichi the Killer, which is about a sadomasochistic crime boss. Movies such as Battle Royale, which was a Japanese flick as well. Everything that involved with slasher movies or just pure violence kind of orchestrated where my character was going in that direction. I like to take a bunch of the like niche references and to kind of meld it in with my character's personality.
Wow. Awesome. So when you were ready to get into the ring and the coach said they let you do your first match, did you have an idea of a gear you were wearing for the match, or was it still like a thought process?
When I first started doing matches, it wasn't with the character I was doing. I had cold feet using it at first. I went by somebody else, which was kind of like a 1, 2, 3 kid kind of gimmick. And, you know, the underdog kind of guy. So I had no direction going forward until I started getting comfortable in like further training in the ring. When I did have my first match in that gimmick, I don't think it really was much to crack down on. It was very interestingly received, and I'm just trying to still get the kinks out for it.
When I think of your name, the last name, the Crow, like instantly I go back to the Bruce Lee, Brandon Lee things, stuff like that. And you said the horror movies. So if you had to do a top, maybe like I like doing top 10s, but sometimes top 10s get me in trouble. What about a top 6 of like all-time horror movies? It could be from any era. Where would you go?
Without it being in order, I'm a huge fan of From Dusk Till Dawn, which was an action horror movie, vampires that had George Clooney, Danny Trejo, and the such. John Carpenter Halloween, that's always my go-to. Terrifier is a really good one, so that's 3. Geez, you got me in a hold here. Actually, I'm a huge fan of the Ju-on the Curse, which was before The Grudge existed. I'm a huge fan of Takashi Shimizu's work. And then another one, you said that would be 2 more?
Yeah, 2 more.
Okay. Friday the 13th, part 4.
Okay.
And then, gotta love some Scream.
Oh yeah. You always gotta get the what's your favorite scary movie? Like, of course you gotta hit him with
fan of that.
Oh yeah, you gotta hit him with, and he has to be so mean. He's like, come on and do it now. Like you have to hit him. Like,
I met Matthew Lillard, who played Ghostface in the first Scream, and he is a treat. He is such a sweetheart.
wow. Did he do the voice for you? Did he do the voice?
Oh, that's his natural voice, but yeah, he's did it for me, and it's great.
It's awesome, dude. Do you, like you said you do like your like editing? You do some editing also. Is it really time consuming? I know when people edit videos, like I know a lot of people edit podcasts and edit their YouTube videos. Is it like when do you start? Do you start from like 7 a.m. all the way to like 12 at night or like that? What is it like your time frame for that?
So I have my schedule for that because it can be time consuming, but I always like have an idea before I get started on it. And it really just depends on what I'm being asked to do. Like if I got to do a promo package, I got to treat it like it's an actual movie trailer, but keeping the context in there, which is exactly what trailers do. I have my typical day job, and I get home and I'll get started working on this. And I'll at least usually get my edits done by 3 to 5 days, because whatever is being asked me first, I prioritize that first, and then I'll also jump onto the other project just to try to gain progress on that. I do get a lot of requests here and there, so I have to utilize and prioritize my time to make sure that everyone gets their videos on time, that they're satisfied with it, making sure that everything goes well. There's no difficulties, in which sometimes there will be a difficulty and I'll have to re-export the entire thing. But it's all in good fun. I never get bored of it. It's one of my favorite things to
do. That's awesome, man. So is there any particular like wrestling promotion that you want to work with in the Buffalo area that you haven't had a chance to spread your wings and go there yet?
So far there isn't really any other Buffalo company, because Nickel City Wrestling is collabing with our students for tapings, and I'm interested in going there. Actually, Grapple Pro, which is the company to Grapplers Anonymous, where Daniel Garcia trained under. They do shows, they do tapings. I'm interested in working tapes with them. It's been talked about, so I plan on going there at some point. I do work for Buffalo Championship Wrestling, and I also work for Empire State Wrestling. So far, that is all the companies. 2 of them are already in the talks.
Awesome. Is there any other places in the New York area that you would like to travel to that you haven't been to yet?
That's a good question. I honestly would like to find a company somewhere in New York City. I go a lot in places in New York where there's never not wrestling. You know what I mean? It goes from like One Up to Immortal to Extreme Wrestling Force there's so many companies to work for in New York that it's like, all right, I gotta find a place out of state too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you ever go to Long Island, there's the New York Wrestling Connection. They're another good one.
I'll have to take a look.
Yeah, they've been around forever. That one, they have like people like Joey Conway and the Slime Balls. They got the Greek guy Papadon that I had on earlier this month. He's a good guy.
Nice.
There's like so many different like New York promotions that most people don't even know. Like this, Warriors of Wrestling, that they go to Brooklyn a lot and Staten Island. It's so weird. Like wrestling promotions nowadays, like since COVID, like have popped up, and you're like, what? They weren't there like 5 years ago. Like what? You know what I mean? They just pop up. You know what I mean?
Especially around this time, it's been like the best time for professional wrestling. Like there's never not a school to go to. There's never not a company to work for. We're at a very golden age of wrestling, not just like in the public eye on television, but like near your home, anywhere near you. It's great.
Awesome. Yeah, man, it's you're so right with that. If there was any fans that would like to pick up any of your merch, do you have any merch, anything, if anybody wants to get anything?
Yes, I do. So I have a prowrestlingtees.com/Darren Crowe. This is where I have most of my shirts. A bunch of them are Pro Wrestling Tees exclusive. A lot that are very horror based. Check it out.
Awesome. If anybody, if there's any fans that want to see you live and see you perform wrestle live, is there any shows you're doing in this month of March?
So on the 15th, we have Empire State Wrestling and the Niagara Falls Frontier Fire Hall. This is our first ESW show of the year in Buffalo. We just got done doing a Pennsylvania show called ESW Keystone last week. So we're moving on to the 15th. Also on the 16th, which would be Excite Wrestling, that is where we're doing a kind of an implosion tag team match, Edge of Hope versus Edge of Hope. And I believe that one is in Binghamton, New York. So if you're there, be there.
Awesome. If there's any fans that are like any wrestlers, like young wrestlers that are just getting into the business, what kind of advice would you give them?
There's so much you could put in there. I would say it's one thing to have the passion for it. It's about the dedication to, like, you know, when you get into the school and you go into those tryouts, you go for that first time. That's the hardest part done. Don't give up right off at that point. Wrestling is for everyone, even if being a wrestler isn't for everyone. There's many, many positions, whether it's referee, camera work, production, even as a wrestler. You truly love wrestling, there's always a spot for you. Just keep putting in the work. Always listen, and no yeah buts. Hey, just throw that out there. No yeah buts. That can get you in trouble.
Yeah, no. Yeah, in my case, yeah, no. Thank you so much for taking this opportunity, coming on Dudes at Ringside with me, and definitely support my guests. Check him out on all his social medias. Where can they find you? On Facebook? Where?
So I have Darren Crowe on my Facebook. I also have, I mean, you can look up Darren Crowe on Instagram, Twitter as a start, but if you need the handles, it is Ultima Crowe, ULTIMACROWE. You'll see me on Instagram, you'll see me on Facebook, you'll see me on TikTok, you'll see me on YouTube, you'll see me on almost every social media site.
Awesome. Mr. Crowe, I want to thank you so much for coming on Dudes at Ringside. I'm Joe Panther III.
Thank you.
And this is Mr.
Peace
Crowe.
out.
And we will catch you in the next one.